dwindle.
Disappointment can come in many forms. Whether it was just a lackluster release, or just simply a release that sucked, all figures have the potential to be the worst. And this year, that is simulated into 15 figures. Hello, my fellow Cybertronians. My name is Mr. Swindle, and welcome to the top 15 worst figures of 2022. This list is fully subjective and based on my own opinion. If you do not agree with me, make your own list.
Number 15.
When I first got Goldbug, I was heavily disappointed. However, as the months have passed, I have softened up to this release. Yes, I was obliged to his pickup as he was part of the Beast Collide 4-pack. But many of my viewers might remember my initial bashing of this figure on Discord. This is due to my copy feeling floppy. And overall, worse than all 3 other copies of the Cliffjumper mold that I own. This figure in no way is perfect. Neither is the mold. However, the gold paint, along with the caramel gold plastic, combined with the royal blue, creates a cool looking combo. Even the head sculpt is cool. I don't hate this release. Not anymore. I'm only mildly annoyed by it.
Number 14.
This year, I managed to track down a couple of my grails. Animated Megatron being one of them. And oh dear, he is not like I expected. Granted, I know he is a much older figure and he will not be up to standard to which figures are today. But I don't know. There is just a certain charm about him. Megatron holds his placement not for objective badness, but rather because I was disappointed and my expectations were let down. Still, he holds a commanding presence. However, it does bring up a good point. I have never owned a good Megatron. Oh well, there's always next year.
Number 13.
This year, I got back into collecting Studio Series figures. And while quite a few have been amazing, Ratchet sure had his problems. When going into getting this 5-pack of figures, I was familiar with 2 figures. Optimus Prime and Ratchet. And did Hasbro forget to tighten joints or something? No, seriously, my Ratchet's right leg would fall off when moving upwards. And also, if Prime's weapons got swapped around, why weren't Ratchet's? Still though, it is kind of nice owning all 5 Autobots. Or 4 3/4. But more on that later in the list. As for Ratchet, this is definitely a downgrade from the original.
Number 12.
My first and probably last collaborative figure I will own.
Gigawatt certainly set himself up for failure right out the gate.
I bought him on a whim earlier in the year because he was relatively cheap on Amazon for around $30.
And I thought it would be cool to have a time-traveling bounty hunter. And when I got him in person, well, if you saw my unboxing for him, you would know he has been damaged ever since. Because the paint was too thick on a transformation joint, not to mention the history of shoddy quality of collaborative figures, fortunately I've managed to avoid them. Unless you count the tires always falling off their brackets. In which case, why? The vehicle mode is the only redeeming factor, and it's probably where the entire budget was allocated. I want to like this figure. I really want to like this figure. But I often forget about him because he just does not stand out in my collection. But at the end of the day, he is simply a Siege Sideswipe retool.
Number 11. Joke's on you if you actually believe this figure would end up on the best of 2022 list. What's funny is I genuinely like Korrod. At least his robot mode. The vehicle mode is lazily made. And the transformation is a joke. And any color other than red that you see on this figure is painted.
This is the best example of wasted budget. Oh, and his weapon is why Skywarps and Iguanuses both sucked. To make some stupid BS combining sword. However, at the end of the day, Korrod is a desk toy. A really horrible one. I would use Dr. Lockdown's sign, but I don't have the budget to do so. Just like how the budget was wasted making Korrod.
10.
To no one's surprise, I again got hit with bad QC. Grindor isn't bad, as long as you don't get bad QC. However, he is super unfun to pose, very, very floppy, and just in general a bad idea. I'm unsure if all copies are this bad, or if the blackout version was any better. Alas, I don't have much to say, as it is kind of hard when I'm not given much to work with.
9.
I quickly became very unhappy with last year's ranking of Kingdom Galvatron. This year, I was determined to get the Gen Selects version and rank it much higher. Well, after my Kingdom Galvatron review and upon receiving Generation Selects Galvatron, I can confidently say the Kingdom version is superior. Because I'm sorry, somehow this version is infinitely worse. Loose joints, loose cannon fit, stickers that are hard to apply.
I'm no rocket scientist, but I don't think stickers are supposed to tear off the paper on the sticker sheet. I mean, half the stickers alone were ruined and unable to be applied when I acquired this guy.
I was deeply disappointed with how much Gen Selects Galvatron here sucked. And to top it all off, the Kingdom version had a good weight to him.
Jenny Selene here feels super light. Fortunately, I did find a little joy with this figure. The glittery cannon.
Number 8.
What can I say about this figure that hasn't already been said? Robot mode does not look like the character at all. Transformation is an absolute mess. Brittle clear plastic that broke on my copy. I may have enjoyed this figure in my initial review of it, but the honeymoon phase has ended. And I've come to realize that this figure just isn't the best. And it's not a distaste against the Legacy Prime figures. I've liked Bulkhead. Both Bulkheads, in fact. Legacy, a name coined by Perspective End, is fitting because this figure is a leg full in the rear.
Number 7.
Legacy Core Class Shockwave is just another bad figure to me. Bad QC, a wretched transformation, a weapon that makes no sense. Basically the Studio Series Core Wave, but worse. I was initially hyped for this figure. I just wish more care was put into this figure. When the reissue Core Optimus is a better figure, you know they messed up.
6.
Beastcalized Scorponok is an interesting figure. A repaint in a multi-pack. I'm usually up for repaints. This, however, is not good. You've heard it from me before. Clear plastic joints are never a way to go. On top of that, his claws always pop off. His alternate head was a pain to attach. And unlike the Kingdom version, he is unable to stand up most of the time. If I wasn't building up a collection, I would easily be selling him off.
Number 5.
I knew Master Dominus was going to be bad going in. He uses the worst fossilizer mold, that being Ractonite. But then you add this shocky black paint. Which, hooray, paint shipping. Even the helmet is worse. Fortunately, you can put him out of his misery by blinding him. I get the feeling he was packaged with G2 lead fit purposely, seeing as how there was no way this figure was going to sell on his own.
Number 4.
This figure is a late entry on this list. I saw this figure at my local dollar store when I was just out and about browsing. And my thought process was, this'll make for a great YouTube video. And then I opened the package. I know I've said that multiple figures on this list have had trouble standing up, but this figure is the winner in that department. Authentics RC is a terrible figure. And somehow, it is not the worst figure of the year. I knew this figure was going to be bad, and I got it for a bit of a laugh. But it sure does make Core Rod look like a masterpiece. And that's saying something, because the Core Rod was trash. But RC here is only good if you want a few laughs. Otherwise, steer clear of this figure.
Numero tres.
I have had no joy with Bumblebee at all. Broken pieces out of the box. Cheap looking plastic. Overcomplicated transformation that has over 40 steps. Loose legs. A crooked crotch section. And why is he yellow? Is Bumblebee not supposed to be a orangish yellow? This is another figure I'd sell off if I weren't building up a collection. I'll probably get the Dark of the Moon version at some point and hope for better QC. Number 2. Core Class Ravage is pure garbage. Why is this little thing $12? He is not worth anything more than $5. He turns into a box. Has BS accessories, limited to no posability. Siege Lionizer is a better Ravage. Even the Ravage that comes with Grindor makes a better Ravage. I don't normally get mad at a figure, but this figure deserves it. Unlike previous figures, Ravage here should have never been produced. Or should have just not been in scale so he could fit into Soundwave's chest. Goodbye, Ravage, I never liked you anyways. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our 2022 dishonorable mentions. These two are thrice Micromasters. I can't remember their names, but they were overpriced at $20, and they are not worth that with the garbage quality on them. Kingdom Tigatron. I'm going to get a lot of backlash on this one, but the yellowing over time on this figure just looks horrible, and you can see it in the video itself. Legacy Crankcase, a horrible retool of the Skids figure with janky proportions and clear plastic. Generation Select Sandstorm. I love the mold, but the color scheme is really bland. Legacy Spindle, a worse version of Paleotrex. Legacy Knockout. I've said this in my review and I'll repeat it here. He is held back by being a retool of the Studio Series 86 Jazz figure. And as a last minute entry, Legacy Red Cog, who a figure that has worse tolerances than the regular Cog. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, the number one worst figure of 2022 that I got. Disappointment comes in many forms. For me, it was Golden Disc, Deluxe Class, Terrorsaur. From the moment of his arrival to even now, I have nothing but complaints. His beast mode head falls off its peg all the time. The feet were loose as all get out when I first purchased him. Fortunately, I was able to fix this problem with tape. The wing falls off by breathing on it too hard. Also, where is the silver that he's known for? So much is wrong with this release. However, here's the thing. He is an exclusive that people are willing to pay hundreds for. I wouldn't mind all the flaws so much had I not waited 7 months for this figure. And that just about wraps up the 2022 year for the worst figures. Next week will be the best figures of 2022. However, after that, reviews will come back regularly, and I will start working the script on Transformers, the third part, whatever it is. I don't know. It's been a while, but I have lots in plan for 2023.